to vote, either early or on election day. And with that, we'd like to get to know our school board candidates a little bit better. And if you've ever been to one of the forums before, we're going to change things up a little bit tonight. Instead of asking everybody the same question and you guys kind of hearing several different versions of the same answer, we're going to be drawing random questions, so the candidates don't really know what's coming at them until the question is read. There will be some questions that all candidates will answer, and then again, like I said, some of the questions are going to be coming from the audience members themselves. So without anything further, Ms. Grant, you're going to be our first candidate. Your question is, Johnston County schools are a fast-growing district with many facility needs. How do we balance the importance of maintaining older facilities with the push to build new ones? And you have a minute and a half.
Okay. Well, fortunately, the superintendent met with county commissioners, and we were able to get a $31 million loan to work on facility renovations and repairs. So that will certainly help us close the gap between some of our older schools and our newer schools. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get a bond on the ballot for our new schools and won't be able to do that until 2018. So the gap is going to get even bigger over time as we're waiting to build, have the money to build the new schools. We'll have to get creative as we look at the budgets and see what else we're able to do. Because like I said, once we get the bond for, if we're able to get a bond in 2018, it's still going to take a year and a half or so to build a school. So we're going to have to get very creative with the budgets to try and figure out what we can do to close that gap.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hamrick, how will you seek input from the general public when making decisions?
When the current superintendent started his position, he actually went to all the different areas in the county and had kitchen tables, and I was able to join in and listen at the tables and rotate with the different school system, the different schools in the different parts of the area, and listen to what the public had to say, what they were looking for, what their concerns were, what they loved about the school systems. And I think that's going to be something that is very important to continue, is to always research and listen to what everybody has to say, whether it's the parents, the teachers, the faculty, the students. All of them are important, and everything they have to say is important. And then take all of your research and come back as a board and come together with any issue to work together.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jennings, what do you see are the top 2 opportunities and challenges in this school district?
Just want to make sure we're okay back there. Top 2 challenges. There are, as I've been out in the county and talked to people, you know, a lot of us want to focus on 2 or 3 key objectives, and I keep a running list in my notebook of a lot of things that people keep coming up with. I'm way past 3. If we're going to zero in on a couple, one of them would have to be this, and this is a simple thing that we can fix. As I ask parents and teachers, I ask them, who is your Board of Education liaison? And it's safe to say 99.5% of them can't name them. And the ones who can are usually the ones who have had an issue of some type, or they have had someone they've had to call upon to get help. And that is one of the things I would love to see change, and that we would be a lot more forthcoming, and that people would know who their Board of Education liaison is, so that they would have someone. And that goes along with a lot of this community input that Summer was just talking about. And the second thing is, we've got to figure out a way to address how we can get resources in schools that are in areas that haven't gotten the attention they deserve up to where some of our newer schools are at. I know we've been doing a lot of things here recently about looking at the renovations. We're looking at $100 million in estimated costs and things like that. But we don't need to be at that point. We need to have addressed that along the way and make sure that everyone feels like they've got the facilities and resources they need.
Thank you very much. Mr. Johnson, against what metrics will you assess district leadership's attainment of key goals And how will you know when a program or decision has been successful?
I will measure it on how it benefits the students, because that is going to be the measuring stick for how effective a program is. If a program is implemented into a school and it's ineffective, we need to take an assessment, and we need to get input from teachers, principals, community leaders to see what we can do to better serve the community, because I believe in community-based schools. Each community is different. So we need to look at the community's needs. Smithfield's needs is different from Benson's needs. I'm excited about a firefighter academy that I introduced in January, and it is coming to SSS, and I think that's going to address the need for volunteerism in SSS and job training with the Smithfield community. Benson, Pine Level, all these towns around Johnston County have different needs, so we need to seek advice from the town council, the county commissioners, to find out what industries are in the area that can benefit the local community. In Clayton, for example, we have Novo Nordisk. So why are we not training the students in Johnston County to go to work for one of our economic giants, where they can make a great living in Johnston County, they can live in Johnston County, they can contribute to our economy without having to set foot in a four-year institution outside of Johnston County. So the metric would be how it benefits the community and how well it can be assessed.
Thank you very much. Ms. Roberts, in your past professional experience, what criteria do you use to make decisions about hiring people, retaining goods and services, or the effectiveness of a course of action? And how will you use these criteria when making decisions as a school board member?
The criteria in my profession that I use to hire people, although I am a solopreneur, but having worked for the school system, what I am familiar with is excellent vetting and recruiting of staff, administrators, making sure that we have the standards, that they meet the standards of the Johnston County schools. Retention really belongs to the staff that we have in terms of providing professional development and all of the resources and development that they need in order to do a great job for our students. So the criteria would be making sure that they are masters in their fields, but also having the compassion to deal with students and the influx of people, our citizens, into our county. Our teachers not only bring the world to our students through their teaching, but our students, because we have probably 50 different languages spoken in the school system, also bring that world to us. So we would want to have master teachers who are competent and compassionate, and that would be my criteria.
Thank you. Ms. Smith, as a school board member, do you see yourself primarily as a representative of the community or as a representative of the school system?
That goes without saying. All school board members must be representatives of the community. The system is our community. If I am elected from a district, if we were in districts and I represented McGee's Crossroads, I'd be scratching and clawing for every dime McGee's Crossroads area schools would get, at the expense of Mike Wooten from Princeton, who would also be scratching and clawing to get resources to Princeton. That is not what our school system is about. Our school system is a system, and we all must represent what is best for all children in all communities. When we lose that big picture, we lose our focus on what has really put our district on the map in the last 8 years. We have worked as one board for one system, one school community involving all of our schools. I could give you 5 pages of data of why that has paid off and how really important it is for all of us to be concerned about all of our children, regardless of where they're from. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sutton, what are the district's greatest capital needs right now, and how do you think those needs should be addressed?
Well, I think every district has different needs. I've been able to go out down in Meadow, and their needs are not the same as Princeton or North Johnston. I think, as it's been said before, we need to have kitchen roundtable meetings and going out in the community and asking them what do they need, immediate needs they're in for now. For example, Triple S, they would probably say a multi-facility for their athletics. And we were in the board when they brought it up and proposed a facility that would house band and cheerleading and different items. And they could bring other companies into the area as well with this facility. If you go to North Johnston, it may be newer athletics, such as some of the ball fields or newer equipment. You go down to South Johnston, they're going to tell you restrooms brought up to code as far as handicap is concerned, walking through their facilities. Height and Associates did a great job in each one of these areas of the district to pinpoint what exactly needed as far as a facility standpoint goes, when the $31 million is just dropping the bucket compared to what we need. But the good thing is the county commissioners came to the agreement that, hey, we need to act and we need to act now. And I thank them for doing that so that each district could be improved in some way or shape or form. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wooten, what suggestions do you have to encourage families to stay in their home school district?
I think Johnston County Schools has been very successful for serving students where they are in their communities. There's many parents that chose to live in certain parts of the county, and they chose that part of the county because of the school, either the school or wherever they work, where they're employed. It's important to have community spirit. One example of that is this past Hurricane Matthew, which destroyed a large part of the county and the infrastructure. But Princeton, just for example, Princeton, this happened in several areas in Johnston County schools where the community was asked, they weren't asked, they just volunteered to come to the facility and help tear out carpet and take desks out of the rooms and to just volunteer their labor to help facility services clean up those schools. That's community schools. To create involvement and mentorship and volunteerism in all our communities, it's important that the children in those communities go to that specific school and the feeder schools in their area to serve that community, to serve that school, to serve those students that might not have mothers and fathers at home. The homeless child that gets love when they go to school, and the mentors in those communities that serve those community schools. So community schools is where our success has been in Johnston County. Thank you.
All right, starting back with you again, Ms. Grant. What are the outputs that matter most to you, and how will you be accountable for them as a school board member?
I think that the growth of the student is one of the most important outputs that come from our school district. And we've had some really good results, although it's not always been portrayed that way in the media of late. But our graduation rate is up 13% in the last 4 years, with 90% graduating, and that's 4% over the state average. Our school report cards showed our schools 81% were C or better. We had no Fs this time, and what a remarkable thing. And we had 4 schools go from one go from an F to a D, 4 from D's to C, and 3 from a C to a B. That's phenomenal. That's great output. That's exactly the kind of thing that we want to see in our schools. And the best thing that we can do as school board members and as a community as a whole is to help encourage that same thing in our schools. Help change the perception of how our schools are doing. Help build that morale for those teachers, so that when they're in there putting in that hard work to help those grades come up and those scores come up and those graduation rates come up, help them to feel good about what they've done, not make them feel like they're still a failure in that school. We've done some great things, and we need to continue to do that. And I think that's a great way to measure the output.
All right. Ms. Hamrick, could you support a board decision you did not vote in favor of? Why or why not?
Sorry, that one's a really hard one just because it depends on the issue. Of course, I'm one that believes in, like we were saying earlier, in researching and reaching out to the community and doing my homework on what a certain issue is. So I think it depends on what is being brought to the Board of Education. I will always do what I think is right and always have good discussions with the fellow board members so that we all can listen. And I think diversity on the school board is a good thing to have, so you can go over issues and discuss them and make what would hopefully be the right decision for whatever issue is being brought to the school board at that time. Thanks.
Mr. Jennings, what experience do you have with complicated budgets? When you're given a 400-page budget for the district, what will be your process to determine if it is a good budget for the system?
Okay, thanks. My experience, I've been in agricultural marketing and grants program management with the state for 28 years. And during that time, I've experienced the great budget years that the state has for us and the low budget years too. But one of the things that I learned was the accountability that we put on folks that are working for us, and then how we are working with food companies, farmers, towns, counties, and things like that. When I was involved in the grant business, we had projects that totaled, between our grant funding and the projects that totaled out there, over $3 million. And it came down to accountability, you know, making sure that things were being done the way they were supposed to. A lot of reporting, a lot of paperwork, things like that. But I'm also smart enough to realize that I don't have all the answers when it comes to a 400-page budget or whatever it may be. And I'm smart enough to realize that I need to surround myself with people who do. So those who have got that kind of experience, financial services, banking, whatever it may be, county manager, whoever it might be, rely on their expertise too to help guide you along. Because not a one of us has all the answers for something like that, but we certainly need to make sure that we've got the right people around us to help us get through that too. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, teachers are imperative to student success. How, as a board member, would you support, strengthen, and empower teachers in our schools?
I have a lot of experience working with teachers. I was a school resource officer for 5 years with some great teachers that are in the audience tonight, so let me start by thanking them. But you're right, they are imperative. So no one knows what they need more than them. So I'm going to have meetings with them. I want to talk to them. I've gone to schools. I was at East Clayton, Riverwood, and I'm always at the Smithfield area schools constantly asking them what they need. And it's important for me because I know how much the children are suffering in some schools, because a lot of times teachers can't afford to buy some of the stuff they need. We hear about it all the time in the news because it becomes so repetitive that you hear of a teacher spending $300, $400, $500 for their own supplies. So we need to support them. We need to make some tough decisions about how we're going to spend taxpayer money to get teachers the stuff they need to teach a class. Because a lot of times they could do so much more. When I was a school resource officer, they would ask for the simple things. We had a behavioral class, and the teacher needed child locks, so we were able to improvise. I went and got gun locks from the PD so they could lock up the cabinets so the children who had destructive behavior would not hurt themselves. A lot of times it's things as simple as tissue, and if a teacher is not comfortable, if they don't have the things they need, they're not teaching at their best. And when they're not teaching at their best, we're doing our children a disservice.
Thank you. Ms. Roberts, how would you work with the county commissioners to fund not only growth, but also our continuing infrastructure and capital needs?
Thank you for that question, because once again, I can draw upon my experience as a professional communicator, and also just the way I've been raised. And having worked for the school system, I know how very important, how critically important that relationship is. So building and developing the relationship, if it's fractured, then, make sure that we mend that relationship. But keeping lines of communication open, being very transparent, ensuring that we are talking about the right things and that we are on the same page. We're all here to ensure that our school system is the best, the very best that it can be. And if we all agree on that, then we can all come to the table and make a difference. And we can make sure that we are making progress at all times. When we come to a stalemate, let's talk about it. We can agree to disagree.